StrayAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves all of us, including yourself, especially yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that's called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is, we are talking the law of entropy. Before we get into this, I'll remind everyone that I send out a text message every single day, guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point. It's called the Daily Motivation. I send one out every week called the Monday Motivation. To get into my text community, that's the only way, which is the only way to get these messages. All you got to do is text me at my number, 305-384-6894. It is down below in the description. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. That is the place where I do all my coaching. Some people see me with the show and maybe know about my books and the stuff I put on social media. Say, Dre, well, what else do you do? Well, that's what else I do, Work on Your Game University. Okay, that's where I work with high-level individuals. These are people who are top 2% performers, or those of you who aim to be in the top 2%. You either got to be there or you got to be looking to get there, because people who are there usually are trying to go even higher, because that's how they got there in the first place. And then those who aren't there, I'm looking for those who are not there but who want to be there. If that's you, you're ambitious. You have big goals, which means you're going to face, you got some big things that you want to do. You got some multiplication that you want to do when it comes to your outcomes, not just addition, but multiplication. If that's you, then go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Schedule a time to get on a call with us. It is free of charge. That's the only way to join the university, by the way. There's nothing on that page where you can buy anything. All you can do is schedule a time to get on a call with us, because we want to know who we're working with, and we want to know what exactly your challenges are once we figure that out and where you want to go. And we want to know that we can help you. So we're sure we can help you, and we're sure you'd be a good fit. Then we'll tell you how it looks and how it works, just so everyone understands exactly what happens when you go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. So any of you who has a way of reaching me outside of going there, just do it and say, hey, Dre, I want to talk about possibly joining a university. Reach out to me, and we will go through the process of figuring out where you're at, where you want to go, and we'll take it from there. If we feel like you're a fit and we can help, we'll tell you how it works and how it will go. All right. And this is a very seamless, smooth process, by the way. Okay. Just in case any of you is wondering, there's not a lot of friction in what we do here at Work on Your Game. So with that out of the way, let's get into this topic, which is the law of entropy. Now, entropy is a topic that I brought up a lot here on this show, and I was surprised to see that I had never done an episode specifically about the subject. So this will handle that, because this is a solo show that has, as of today's recording, let me check my notes here. As of today's recording, we have over 2,800 episodes recorded in the show, and I'm still surprising myself in noticing that there are certain topics that I never actually gave a full episode to. So any of you out there who's wondering, how am I going to be able to keep coming up with ideas for content and stuff to put out once you start putting things out there? I had that same thought in my head in 2009, but here we are in 2024, 15 years later, and I'm still coming up with new things that I am surprising myself that I haven't even recorded yet. So that's proof to all of you that you will never run out of content as long as you start. But you got to start, and you got to kind of give yourself a mandate to make sure you keep going. You will figure it out. All right. Sometimes they come easy, sometimes it comes hard. But either way, the ideas will come as long as you keep demanding yourself to come up with them, and as long as you're clear on your angle and approach. So I don't think anybody out there, no one in the internet space, has created more original content than I have. And I'm still coming up with new stuff. Now, there's some people who have bigger audiences than me. There's some people who can take one piece of content and they kind of repurpose it in different ways. And I do that sometimes too. But as far as original content, I don't think anyone has me beat. If any of you believe you know someone who has me beat in terms of original content created from 2005 to now, we can kind of just say all time. Let's say all time, because in 2005, that was still very, very early in content creation. We weren't even using that word. There's a couple people who might somewhat be close, but for the most part, I don't think anybody has me beat. So if any of you know anyone who has me beat, you tell me. That's not the topic here today, but as I'm bringing it up, just want to say that. So there's hope for everybody. Any of you wondering if you can keep coming up with ideas. So with that out of the way, let's get into this actual topic, which is the law of entropy. Let me first define the word. This is the dictionary definition. Okay. It is a thermodynamic quantity representing the unavailability of a system's thermal energy for conversion into mechanical work, often interpreted as the degree of disorder or randomness in the system. That's a very wordy definition that could kind of flip some people upside down and backwards. Let me give the definition too. This is also part of the definition. When you look in dictionaries, more than one definition. Here's the second definition that's a little bit more clear. It is a lack of order or predictability, gradual decline into disorder, close quote. So today I'm going to explain in everyday terms, not scientific terms, but everyday terms, why this law of entropy needs to be understood by you and me, and how it reflects itself in your life when you don't take control of it. And the reason why it's important for you to understand the law of entropy is because it's not a theory, it's not an idea, it's a law, which means it is always working whether you are cognizant of it or not. So if you are not conscious of the law of entropy, that doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It's just like if you are not conscious of the law of gravity, but you jump off of a building, the fact that you are unaware of the law of gravity doesn't mean that gravity will not immediately go to work and do what it does. It's the same thing with entropy. Just because you are unaware of it does not mean it is not working on your life in some way, shape, or form. So today I'm going to help you understand how it works in your life. And then once you understand this, you're gonna have some light bulb moments, I would think, in today's episodes. You're gonna say, oh, okay, now that makes sense why these things occur. And they've always occurred this way. And because now you are consciously aware of this, now you can intentionally do some things to help stave off entropy. Because I would guess that most of you don't want a lack of order or a lack of predictability or a decline into disorder to be occurring in your life. All right. So assuming that you don't want that, understanding that this is a law, meaning it's always happening, I'm going to tell you how to make sure it doesn't happen. All right. Point number one. Today's topic, once again, is the law of entropy. The law is, in plain language, this is me giving you my plain language explanation of the definition of the law of entropy. Every organism, every entity is always moving towards a higher state of disorder at all times. So when I say a higher state of disorder, just more disorder means more chaos. They said descent into disorder because disorder usually is like a lower energy state. But when I say a higher state of disorder, I'm saying the same thing. I'm just saying it in a different way. So it's descending into this state of more and more chaos and disorder. Now think about this, because the law says everything is always moving here. It's like a gradual, always moving in this direction process. And when you think about this, it makes perfect sense because we can see subjectively in our own life experiences how things gradually always get worse when we don't pay attention to them. Would you agree that this happens? Anything in your life that may be in a good space or is like, okay, you're content with it, is like, it's cool, but then you stop paying attention to it, what happens to it? It usually gets worse, right? It starts to fall apart. It doesn't do as well because you are not tending to it. For example, if you don't clean your house at least every once in a while, what happens? Your house naturally gets dirty and nasty. What happens if you don't brush your teeth or you don't floss or whatever it is that you could do to take care of your teeth, depending on what you are putting in your mouth on a regular basis? Usually your gums and your teeth get into worse shape. You end up getting cavities, or you got to have stuff removed, or you got to get crowns, or you get gum disease. You get all kinds of stuff going on because you are not taking care of your teeth, or if you're just not going to the dentist often enough. Even if you're brushing it every day, you're not going to the dentist often enough. The dentist could catch something that you wouldn't be able to see on your own. So if you're not taking care of your teeth the proper way, which is the way that kind of keeps you from having tooth pain, then what happens? Higher state of disorder. If you don't exercise, what happens? Anybody listening to this who hasn't exercised in a while, and you know you haven't exercised in a while, what happens? Fitness-wise, your body gets into a worse state, right? It goes into more chaos. It means your heart has to work a little bit harder because you got more weight to carry around. Your heart is not as strong because you are not exercising it, also known as cardiovascular health. Your heart is not in good shape, so because you're not making it work, so it doesn't get in better shape. You lose your muscle definition if you ever had any muscle definition. You have layers of fat that are blocking the muscles that we would otherwise see if the fat wasn't in the way. All of these things happen when you don't exercise on a regular basis, or if you eat poorly. Any of you who make bad decisions in the kitchen as far as what you drink and what you eat, combine that with not exercising, what does it do? It increases the entropy in your body and in your physical health. And we all know that you only get one body, and many of you are familiar with the concept or the phrase that health is wealth. And if you allow your health to fall apart, then you end up in trouble. Let's just put it that way. I talked to you about this in episode 1502. Wealth don't buy health. Taking care of your body. Again, that was episode 1502. told you about my nutrition, health, lifestyle as of early 2020. That was back in episode number 1333. And told you some realities about your health back in episode 2680, just a couple months ago. So what's another one? If you don't stay in touch with your connections, how many of you know some people who you haven't talked to in a while and you haven't reached out to them, they haven't reached out to you, there hasn't been any open lines of communication? Well, what happens? That relationship gets weaker because it hasn't been tended to. So anything that's just left alone, you don't do anything, usually it ends up in a worse space. You walk around your town, wherever you live, if there's an abandoned building, usually you can tell when a building is abandoned. How can you tell? You don't even have to go in it, or you don't have to know the property owner or the real estate person trying to sell it. All you got to do is look at it from the outside, because you can tell, right? That it might be a broken window, or the doors might be boarded up, or no one's cut the grass in a while, and anything on or around the house looks like the paint is peeling. It just looks like nobody has tended to it at all. It doesn't look like a human exists in that place. If they do, they're probably not in good shape, right? So we see this is just a natural occurrence that when things are left by themselves, they tend to get worse. Now, I want you to keep this thought in the front of your mind as we go through the rest of this episode. Things are left to themselves and not tended to by somebody, they tend to get worse. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is the law of entropy. Number 2, if you listen to this show often, you may have heard me make the tongue-in-cheek joke that most of your high school classmates are the same people they were the last time you saw them. The only difference being they're older, fatter, and uglier. I made that joke a few times, and I'll keep making that joke because it's true. And this relates directly to the law of entropy. And is the reason why I make the joke, because this is literally what entropy is. People, any person, this includes you, if the shoe fits, will descend into a worse state in life naturally if you are not doing anything to stop that descent from occurring. The natural movement of human beings after puberty is to descend into more disorder. Let me say this again, because this is the most important thing you need to get from what I'm saying here, and this is why I emphasize the end of point number 1. The natural direction of movement for a human being is to descend into more disorder and more chaos. In other words, if you do absolutely nothing, then the natural thing that will happen to you is you go backwards, down, and you're moving closer and closer to death. You're getting worse. Natural thing for human beings is to get worse. It's not natural to get better. Again, this is why I said after puberty. During puberty, you are naturally growing, even if you do everything to try to stop the growth from happening. It just happens by itself. That's a natural thing as well. So I have a son who's less than 2 years old. As he's growing naturally, so we are doing things to hopefully make sure that he grows very well and as strong as possible and as healthy as possible. But even if we weren't doing anything as parents, we weren't doing anything to make sure that he was in better shape, or giving him healthier food, or whatever, following best practices that we've come to, that we have decided with our best judgment are best practices, he would still grow. Now, he's not going to always be 2 feet tall. He's going to get taller, even if we were giving him shitty food and bad health stuff and everything bad, he would still grow. It just naturally happens for people up through puberty. But after puberty, that means if you're over the ages of, let's just say you're over the age of 21, roughly, you aren't getting better by yourself anymore. That does not naturally happen anymore. The only way you're going to get better is you must do things on purpose. I remember people I knew. I remember females that I knew in high school or in college, and I would see pictures of them 10 plus years later, and I'm like, what happened to her body looked a lot different in high school and college than it looks now. What happened? And often what happens is entropy. Right? If you stop working out, or maybe you never worked out, and maybe you just had a natural certain type of shape, and then when that natural shape isn't working anymore because you kind of passed puberty, you automatically start going down if you're not doing anything to keep it up. Same thing happens with men. Now, I see athletes, former athletes, being that I'm one myself, who, of course, they were in a certain shape when they were in their playing days. But then when they stop playing, I see a lot of former athletes, they get completely out of shape. They're now fat. If you looked at them, you couldn't tell that they used to be an athlete. They're a former athlete in name only. Meaning you look at them, and if you didn't know who they were, and I said, "What this person used to do something else 10 years ago. What was it?" And there are some athletes who you look at them, you would never guess athlete because they don't look anything like it. Now, if they told you, you would believe them. All right, they played. But this is something that I've always said about myself, is that I never want to look like a former athlete. Right? Now, you can know I'm a former athlete because I told you, but I never want to look like, if you see me in the gym or you see me working out, you see me running somewhere like in Miami in streets or something like that, you wouldn't look at me and say, that guy looks like he used to be an athlete. You would say, that guy looks like he is an athlete. That's just me. I'm not saying that you have to have that standard for yourself, but it's something I've always had for myself. The point of all these examples is the natural direction in life is to go backwards, down, and descend after puberty. So all of you who are adults over the age of 18, the natural occurrence for you is to get worse. Okay, that's why I tell you that there's no neutral in life. You can't be neutral. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. The only way to get better is you must be intentional. If you're not being intentional about getting better, I'll help you out. I'll let you know where you're going. You're getting worse. All right, if you don't know, you're getting worse. So any of you not sure what direction you're going in life right now, you're getting worse. All right, everyone else who you are getting better on purpose, well, you're getting better on purpose. But if you're not doing that, I just told you 3 times what you're doing. The natural default thing to happen is to get worse. Disorder. If you understand one point from today's episode, this is it. The natural thing that happens to all humans and all things that are created by humans is they get worse when they are left alone. Unless you are consciously and intentionally doing things to not get worse, you will get worse by simply doing nothing. All right, do nothing, you get worse. Any of you who lifts weights, if you don't lift weights for a week or two, you lose some of the strength that you had. You got to kind of build yourself back up to the strength that you were at before. You do cardio on a regular basis and you take a week or two off from doing cardio, you lose some of your cardiovascular strength. You got to build it back up again. You got to get back to where you were. This is why we have a concept called the third day. In my book, The Third Day, I explain this point called the first day. So after you master the third day, which is the challenge of, third day is that challenge of you realizing that the thing that you signed up for is not going to be so easy. Let's say you were planning to run a marathon and you start training for it. You do your first 15-mile run and it kills you. Or you're trying to lift weights and you're trying to get your max weightlifting amount from 75 pounds to 100 pounds. And the first time you try 90 pounds and it kills you. And your muscles are super sore that day. And the third day is that moment when that happens. And when you master that, you keep going, you keep pushing past it, and you break through that plateau. That's what we call the fourth day, where the work does not actually get easier, but it feels easier, and you can make it look easy because you've broken through the plateau. But what if you, for whatever reason, stop doing the work that got you past the third day, that got you to the fourth day? Let's say you go on vacation, or you get sick, or you get injured, and you can't do the thing that you were doing to maintain that level. Now, when you come back, you can't lift 90 pounds anymore. You got to start back at 65. That's the first day. The first day is when you know that you can perform at a higher level, but you are not conditioned to do it yet. So you have to work your way back up from where you start. In other words, you got to follow the process again, just as you did before. You can probably do it a little bit faster because you have the knowledge and experience and the confidence, but you still have to respect the process. So that's called the first day, when you have to kind of work your way back. So for example, date that I'm recording this, by the time you hear this, I've probably already gotten back to it, but I usually take a good 5-6 weeks off at some point every year from running. I like to run outside, but I got to take the 5-6 weeks off just to let my body recover any nagging nicks and bruises, and really just muscle recovery. Because when you're running that much, it's a repetitive movement on the muscles, and I already got 20 years of basketball, then running on top of that, and basketball involves running, so I've done put a lot on my legs over many 4+ decades on this planet. So I had to take that time off. I would prefer not to need to take the time off, but I have to take the time off. So when I come back, by the time you all hear this episode, I probably have started running again. When I first begin, I'm going to deal with the first day. I got to deal with that again because I know what I'm capable of when I'm at my peak cardiovascular wise, but I will not be at my peak because I just took 6 weeks and didn't run. So my cardio, I had to get it back up to where it was. And this is the discipline that you need to understand you have to work yourself back up. So the way you keep the law of entropy at bay, and we're on point number 3 here, how do you keep the law of entropy at bay? The topic again today is the law of entropy, is that you need rules, processes, parameters, standards, and habits. The way you keep the law of entropy at bay, meaning you keep the law still exists, but you keep it from affecting you, is you need rules, processes, parameters, standards, and habits. All of these fall under the umbrella of one word. It's the word that I open this show with every day: discipline. Discipline, when you are disciplined, that is because you are following rules, you are following processes, you have parameters, you have standards, and when you are disciplined, it'll be a reflection of your habits. And everybody has habits, actually. Some of them are good, some of them not so good, but we all have them. Discipline is created by structure. So when you put the right structures in place, you will have the processes and parameters to follow your own rules, live up to your own standards, execute on the habits that will help you not get worse. In other words, habits will help you get better, because there's no neutral. If you don't do this, by simple deductive reasoning, entropy will win and you will get older and uglier. That's it. Those are your two choices. This is a binary. Okay. There is no other option. This is a binary. You are one or the other. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. If you want to get better, you must plug into structures and processes that naturally produce disciplines, that naturally produce habits that will produce the outcomes that you want. This is we call this reverse engineering these things. And here's the trick, everyone. You need not come up with your own processes and structures for the disciplines and habits and outcomes that you want. If it is something that you already understand yourself, which ones you need, and you can install them, go ahead and do it. But that's usually, for most people, we have a few of them in which we can be experts on our own stuff. In the other aspects of life, we need to allow others to be the experts. All we have to do is plug into what they do, and this is a shortcut. It's a shortcut to achieving success, because we don't have to figure everything out on our own. We can just plug into someone else who already figured it out. Why figure it out on your own when someone already did it? Save yourself a whole lot of time and a lot of energy trying to figure out something that maybe you ain't that good at figuring out. Right? So you don't have to do this. Use the shortcut of another person. If I want some bread, I'm not going to go buy a bread maker and dough and yeast and look up recipes online. I'm not saying you're wrong if you choose to do that, but I ain't baking no fucking bread. What I'm going to do is go to the store and buy some. All right, that's what I'm going to do, because it's a much faster process than me doing it on my own. And baking bread is not one of my zones of genius. So you need to know where your zones of genius are and where they're not. And let me help you all out. Most people have at the most 3 zones of genius. Not 17, not 12, not 10, not 5. Most people have at the most 3. And you don't even need to have 3. You can be a genius at one thing. And if you can milk that one thing strongly enough, that can produce higher returns than somebody who has 2 or 3 zones of genius. But you need to know what your zones of genius are. That's where you focus. That's where you can help others. And then the areas in which you are not a genius, you plug into other people and let them help you. Okay? So these days, people use the term washed. Those of you who are over the age of 35, maybe your kids use this term. Washed. What does washed mean? Washed does not mean you put it in the washing machine and it's clean. Washed means someone who is past their prime and on the decline in life. Or sometimes people say dusty. You're washed, you're dusty. That means you're past your prime, you're on the decline, you are no longer getting better, you are gradually getting worse. Now, do you know how people get washed? So if somebody calls you washed or you call somebody else washed, how did they actually become washed? How does that happen? People get washed because they stop following certain disciplines and they allow entropy to win. So a former athlete, I'm not knocking you if you stop working out every day, because maybe you're tired of that shit. You did it for 20 years, so no wonder you stopped working out. But some of you former athletes who stopped working out, and now your waistline is expanding because you don't work out anymore, and you're eating just as much as you were before, but you're not exercising to burn off those calories. All right, this is one of the ways that you become physically washed, because you ain't working out anymore. You're not following the disciplines anymore, so now your weight is ballooning because you're not following those disciplines. Those of you who run businesses, your business is not doing as well as it was before when you were hitting on all cylinders, probably because certain disciplines are not being followed the way they were being followed before. When you stop brushing your teeth and flossing every day, what happens? You get tooth decay, you get gum disease, you get cavities, you get pain in your mouth, and you can't go to sleep. When you stop staying in touch with friends, what happens? You lose those friends. You lose the relationship. So any of you who doesn't want to be washed, okay? I don't think any of you want to feel washed. I don't care how old you are. If you don't want to be washed in any area of your life, here's a simple formula. Plug into disciplines and follow them. And it doesn't mean you have to follow the same disciplines forever. I don't do the same workouts now as a former professional athlete, but still an athlete, but no longer professional. I don't do the same workouts now that I did when I was playing pro basketball and I was trying to maintain a 40-inch vertical and dunk on people. I don't do the same workouts, but I still work out. So I just changed the tactic of which workouts and how I work out, but the strategy of working out itself has never changed. Why? Because I'm following the principle of I will never be out of shape. And again, I'm not telling you that you need to do this, but you need to know what your principles are. They govern your standards and they govern your tactics. My principle is I will never be out of shape. I will always, if I tell you I'm an athlete and you see me, my physical body, you will believe me when I tell you I'm an athlete. Whether I am or not, you'll believe me because I look the part. That's a principle for me. And that principle is that governs the strategy of I'm always going to have something that I'm doing on a consistent basis when it comes to working out. Back in the days, it was playing basketball. I was on a basketball court 1 to 3 times per day, and I was in the fitness gym, and then I'd be outside doing cardio stuff. That was my lifestyle then, because that was the strategy. These days, the strategy is to always have something to do working out. Excuse me. The tactic was what I was doing: basketball and fitness gym and running. Nowadays, the tactic is I still run, different type of running than I was doing in my basketball days, more longer distances. And I go to the boxing gym. Those are the things that I do. Those are the tactics that I use now, but those may change. Who knows? 10, 15 years from now, I might be on a golf course and no longer doing boxing, and maybe I won't be running anymore. Maybe I'll be riding a bike instead of running because my joints have had enough of getting beat up on the pavements. Who knows? But I will always have the principle of always being in shape. I could be 65 years old. I'm still going to have the principle of being in shape. The strategy is I got to find a way to consistently work out, which I will always find. And I'm here in the sunshine state of Florida, so we got a lot of options because for the most part, you can do stuff outside all year round. And then there's the tactic. The tactics are interchangeable. So maybe I'll play golf, maybe I'll box, maybe I'll go to run, maybe I'll play basketball, maybe I don't know, what's another sport? Pickleball? We'll see. The whole point is I know what my principle is. You need to know what your principles are. They will help you stave off entropy in every area in which you have principles. And so here's the suggestion. Have principles in everything so that you never get washed in anything. All right, that's it. You don't want to be washed in any area of life. Have principles, because the principles will help you stay away from being washed. Recapping today's class, which is the law of entropy. I've touched on this topic a lot, but never actually did an episode on it. And entropy is simply a lack of order or predictability, is a gradual decline into disorder. Then I'm going to explain how to stay away from, or how to keep entropy from overtaking you. Is the best way of saying it, because you can't really avoid it. It exists, but you need to keep it from overtaking you. Number one, in plain language, every organism always moves to a higher state of disorder at all times. You're always descending into chaos unless you do something to stop it from happening. Again, if you don't clean your house, what happens? You don't brush your teeth, what happens? You don't exercise, what happens? We know everything gets worse if you don't deal with it. Number two, you listen to the show often, you heard me make the tongue-in-cheek joke. Most of your high school classmates are just older, fatter, and uglier. You don't have to go look them up. I already told you exactly what's happening with them. Why is this? Because most people don't do anything intentionally after puberty to continue to get better. And if you're not doing anything intentionally to get better, then you are by default getting worse. That is a binary. There are no other options. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. Number three, how do you keep the law of entropy at bay? Rules, processes, parameters, standards, and habits, principles as well. These all work with discipline, which I talk about here every single day. Some of them are above discipline, some of them are results of discipline, but they all are part of the discipline ecosystem, so to speak. So you must do things consistently to make sure that you don't become washed. You don't be washed up and old and done and dusty and on the decline in life. All you need to do is set your principles, create strategies that are governed by those principles, and then follow tactics based on those strategies. That's it. That will keep you from being washed forever. You can not be washed and be 90 years old. It just depends on what you're doing, what the standards and principles are. With all that said, make sure you are texting me, so you're in my text community. Numbers down below in the description, 305-384-6894. And Work On Your Game University. That is the place where I coach people like you on things, not just the law of entropy. We're going to make sure that the law of entropy never overtakes your business. That would mean maybe you going out of business, your business going backwards. You don't want that happening. Those of you serious about taking your business forward, listen to what I said here today. You have to be conscious and intentional about how to move forward, not just wanting to move forward. You have to have conscious intentions about what exactly are you going to do to make that happen. And again, you don't have to reinvent the wheel and figure it all out on yourself. Plug in with someone who knows how to do what you're trying to do. Let them help you and save yourself a ton of time so you can achieve your results faster. That's what we do in Work On Your Game University. That link is workonyourgameuniversity.com. Just send a message or go there to Work On Your Game University and click the button. You can schedule a time to get on a call with us. And what we will do is talk to you, find out where you're at, where you want to go. And if we feel like we can help you, we feel you'd be a good fit for what we're doing, we'll tell you how it works, and we go from there. So all that said, everyone, work on your game. Dre, all